Yes. Good afternoon, councillors and officers and visitors. Welcome to the council meeting of the 2nd of February 2021. And it's really quite unusual to be back here in the council chamber for the first time since I think end of April. I think we had meetings.
April, Mayor.
April. Yes, thank you. So and welcome to councillors Tatterson, Wood, and Mackenzie. That was a seniors moment. Because for your first, yes, I said Councillor Wood. Yes, for your first meeting in the council chamber. So yes. Now I'm just looking at the agenda, councillors, and the first item is the council meeting information, which I think at the moment may well be redundant. So I'm just going to pass over that because we are back here in person. So the acknowledgement of country, which I'll ask you to all stand for. So we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. And now the prayer. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Apologies, we have no apologies today. Declaration.
Mayor, just might like to read out the council meeting information just in relation to recording, so members of the public gallery.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you that there to read that out.
All right. Okay. I'll just yes. So in relation to our standard information, I'll get that there. Yep. Thank you, Mr. CEO. So members of the public gallery should note that the council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the council meeting but who wish to communicate with the council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Yeah.
So moving down to I think apologies, I said we have none. Declaration of conflicts of interest. I believe I haven't aware of any declarations of conflict of interest. The next item is confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 15th of December.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 15th December 2020.
Okay, I think Councillor Boyer, you're seconding that, all right. Is there any opposition to the adoption of that recommendation? No? I'll declare it carried. There was a business matter arising which is still laying on the table that doesn't need to be dealt with at this stage. Acceptance of late and urgent items. There are no late and urgent items. Notices of motion. There are no notices of motion. Receiving of petitions or joint letters. There is item 7.2, response to petition, objection to planning permit application P388/2020. There is a recommendation there. Can I have a mover to... Yes, Councillor Holt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move that in response to the petition presented at the ordinary council meeting of the 15th of December 2020, Council advised the head petitioner that planning permit application P388/2020 has been withdrawn.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. I have a seconder, Councillor Marr. Dear me. I'm not going too well today. Thank you, Councillor Marr. Is there any opposition to that recommendation? If not, it's carried. Councillor Holt.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This petition came about, I suppose, because of the fear of the unknown of the people out in Seaton. There's an organisation from Melbourne who are going to house and also breed foxhounds. And foxhounds, I believe, are a hunting dog. The area of Seaton, of course, has lots of calves and sheep, and so the knocks on my door and then we're pulling up in the street and the phone calls from the worried citizens out in Seaton asking for this to be reassessed. Our planners looked at it because the initial application had some conditions on it that had to be presented so that people of Seaton could see what was going on. The notice of intention wasn't put in the appropriate place, and so therefore the discussion that was held with the applicant asking them to reconsider what they've done, and that will be reapplied, and I would presume that the people from Seaton with the applicants will sit around a mediation table and come to an agreeable situation. But it's a bit like when poultry farms come here. It's something a little bit different, something new, and of course, got to get rid of the fear.
Oops. Yes, thank you, Councillor Holt. Next item on the agenda, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. At this stage, councillors, I would just like to note and acknowledge the fact that the former independent chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, Mr Peter Denzel Craighead, he's kept his middle name quite happily secret, has been awarded an honorary OAM in the Australia Day Honours for services to rural health administration. And Peter, as I said, was our independent chair for a number of years. He's currently still serving, and since 2008 has been the Chief Executive of the Latrobe Regional Hospital. Between I've just got to check the date, between 2004 and 2008 he served as the CEO of the Central Gippsland, or Administrator and then CEO of the Central Gippsland Regional Health Service, and amongst other important appointments, he was also the Executive Director of the Yarraman District Health Service from 1989 to 2004. So I would just like to congratulate Peter on his award for all the services he's given. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. And just while on that subject, councillors, I'd just like to quickly, and I haven't got all the names, but I'd just like to acknowledge all the other local winners of Australia Day awards around it all. At most of our district local Australia Day ceremonies, there have been organisations and individuals acknowledged for their wonderful commitment to the community. So I'd just like to congratulate all of those people for their awards and wish them all the very best too. So thank you very much. So now I think the next item on the agenda may be moving over the page, item 11.1.
Sorry, Mayor, no questions on notice, no delegates.
No, oh sorry, I have passed over questions on notice and delegates, but we have no questions on notice or delegates reports. Yes, thank you. So yes, officers' reports. So item 11.1 is the Assembly of Councillors. I have someone to... Yes, Councillor Boy.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 7th of December 2020 to the 24th of January 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is there any opposition to that motion? I'm happy to declare it carried. Councillor Boy, did you want to make any...
Nothing, Mayor.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Boy. And the next item on the agenda is item 12.1, General Manager Development, the Perry Bridge Solar Farm Project Submission. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council endorse the attached submission to the Perry Bridge Solar Farm project.
Thank you, Councillor Crosley. We've got a seconder for that. Councillor Tatterson, thank you. Is there any opposition to that motion? If not, I'll declare it duly carried. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an incredibly exciting project, and it's actually perhaps the harbinger of things to come. It was certainly highlighted in the Gippsland Regional Plan that was published last year, and actually supported by the state and federal government in that Gippsland is now a renewable energy zone, or Gippsland RES. So this is what we'll say will hopefully be the first stage. I know Solus RE is certainly looking at other developments in the Shire, so very exciting, a start of a new era. The proposal is a development of a 125 million solar farm, 93 hectares of land located on the Ben Warden Road and Perry Bridge. Now this is actually on rural farmland, and it's been proven, certainly overseas and in Australia already, that it doesn't actually impact on the farm. In fact, that the farming practices, certainly grazing sheep, of which is normally in this area, is actually enhanced by having these solar panels there. And certainly at the end of its life, which is probably 30 years of operation on this particular facility, although it may be upgraded to actually have a longer life, it certainly resorts straight back to ordinary farmland. So it's actually the other exciting thing, that it actually meets the council's plan of becoming a leader in the area of going to a carbon neutral environment, and certainly this will avoid 72,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide, so of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So a well worth target. And it really is going to be exciting. It can propose to have 88 jobs during construction, and then there'll be ongoing jobs there as well. And also I know that Solus RE has been discussing with the local installation partnership that they've got with electrical companies and with the local TAFE to actually have training and specific courses to actually implement that process, so we can have a skilled workforce for further development in this area. I also like to highlight that the organisation's done an amazing amount of community consultation, and King Arthur has been involved with webinars over the last year, which were hosted by Wellington Shire Committee for Gippsland and the Gippsland Climate Change Network, that really were well supported, with sometimes over 100 people being involved in that process, and great enthusiasm for this new industry in the area. So it's really a win-win, and also this is really works in support of our plan to create and support new investment and encourage environmental and new jobs growth into Wellington. This is, council doesn't make a decision. We are putting this submission of support into a DELP, which is closing of submissions to the general public as well, for the planning permit, which is closed on 5th of February 2000, end of this week. But I just really think that King Arthur and his team have done a fantastic job of informing us. We've had many workshops to know what's going on, and a really exciting project, and a really growth area for the future of Wellington.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Crosley. The next item on our agenda is further gallery and online comments. And in, do we want to do gallery first, Mr. CEO? Yes. So Mr. Neil Barraclough is in the gallery, and I understand he would like to address the council. So please welcome Neil, and the floor is yours for your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, councillors, I would just like to express my concern at the previous decision made by the Wellington Shire, as I understand it, to give in-principle support to the fingerboard sand mine proposal. And I understand it is subject to issues like the allocation of water. I'll put it fairly simply. Our use of water in the Gippsland region hasn't been sustainable in the past, and we are now facing significant rainfall decline. The rainfall has been declining significantly since 1996, when solar activity was started to decline. And if you go back from 1996, the rainfall largely rose and fell with solar activity. So there is a significant relationship, and the predictions for the next 30 to 50 years are for what's called a grand solar minimum, a period of very low solar activity. And to get an idea what that means, throughout southeast Australia there are a few incidents of dead trees in the bottom of lagoons and swamps, and one out here at Longford dried up for the first time in 1915 to reveal what was thought to be about 50-year-old dead trees. So it's very likely that the last grand solar minimum, which was the Little Ice Age, or during the Little Ice Age, 1645 to 1715, that swamp never filled. There is a hole on Carrs Creek near Sea Spray that dropped about 2 metre around 1945 to reveal the branches of a dead tree growing out from under the waterline. Now, the anecdotal accounts given back then was that it had never dropped like that before. So at some time in the not too distant past, but pre-European times, that hole in Carrs Creek was dry or very low for like a 50-year period. Now, I'm giving these instances to relate to you what we are very likely going into of the next grand solar minimum. And on top of the relationship between solar activity and rainfall in the rainfall record going back to 1870, there is a downward trend in addition to the declining solar activity, which indicates that there's a human influence in addition causing rainfall decline, and that, if so, that will compound it significantly on what the last drought was that gave us those 50 years where the trees grew. And yes, water use wasn't really sustainable, particularly underground water use sustainable during periods of high rainfall. The period from 1940 to 1996 is said to be anything from the highest solar activity for 1,000 years to 8,000 years. So we're looking at very likely that period was the highest rainfall for 1,000 years or more, and we weren't sustainable. And we're now heading into the opposite extreme, and even considering allocating 3 gigalitres of water from both from the aquifers and the Mitchell is just beyond me. And as far as the Gippsland lakes are concerned, there are several catchment issues, particularly the devastation of the fires. The McAllister, Avon, Mitchell catchments have been trashed, and that will cause regrowth, which is going to take a lot of water out of the runoff into the Gippsland lakes. So the water simply isn't there.
Okay. So thank you, Mr Barraco. Thanks very much for your presentation. And next, I think, are there any online comments, Mr. Senator?
Yes, there's one, Mayor. It was received a couple of days ago. I'll read it out to Council from Mr Jim King of Maffra in relation to the Maffra men's shed, which is currently located on Gippsland Water property. So I'll just read out what Mr King has written. Since June 2020, representatives from Maffra men's shed have been liaising with councillors and council officers regarding a new site for our shed. This follows Gippsland Water's decision not to renew our current licence agreement beyond December 2022. At a council workshop held on the 15th of December, council officers presented a case for council to approve the allocation of the southern end of the current RV site in Johnson Street. A letter was sent to the council CEO, David Morecambe, confirmed the above and indicated that staff would be writing a report to council. In order that a final decision be made, I note that such a decision is not scheduled on the agenda for the upcoming 2nd of February meeting, as in today. As the allocation of the RV site is critical to current or potential funding applications, when will council be making a decision on this matter, especially considering the broad community support for such an allocation to be made? And Mayor, if I may, through you, I can just probably provide councillors with a quick update. Councillors have requested that we get further information in relation to some drainage issues on the back of that block, and we've had 1 or 2 staff away in January, and that work has now been completed. So I can assure councillors that that report will be in fact coming at the next council meeting, so in 2 weeks' time, and we will provide that response to Mr King in the next 24 hours.
Excellent.
To give him an opportunity to, if he wishes to attend that meeting. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr CEO. And now the only other item was closed session. I think there is no need for us to go into closed session today. Therefore, I am pleased to declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much for your attendance.